Hello and thanks for stopping by. This is California games for the Atari 2600 released by Epyx in 1988. Yet another California games version to review. This is the third one I've done so far. I did the Commodore 64 version already, then I did the NES version. I think they all have their successes, but probably the best one overall so far that I've seen is the Commodore 64 version. The fact that they put this one out for the Atari 2600 is kind of amazing to me. This release for the Atari 2600 was in 1988, and it came a few years after the NES system was already on the market, and I thought at this point the Atari 2600 was dead and done with. By comparison, the game E.T., which was considered the game that crashed the video game market, that came out in 1982. That was 6 years before this one. I did some searching, and I guess there were also officially licensed games released for the 2600 as late as 1992. Very interesting, I'll have to check some of those out. So, California games for the Atari 2600, this is a cartridge game on a limited system. Certainly they're not going to have all of the mini-games on this cartridge. This version only offers 4 playable games. There's footbag, there's halfpipe, there's BMX biking, and surfing. First, surfing is terrifying, and I have yet to successfully do much of anything here. The ocean is just horrifying to look at, and it's this trippy display of colors on screen. I know they had technical limitations on this machine, but this particular game doesn't work for me, and I'm a huge fan of the surfing game on the other platforms. Usually I just like cruising around on the wave, maybe doing a couple of tricks, but I can't even seem to manage to cruise around. I just can't get past the basics to even attempt to do any tricks. I can flounder around for maybe 2 seconds, but then I'll usually flip up over the back of the wave or just get overridden by the crest. This is not an easy one to figure out and understand. Plus, the way that the water looks, the way the level looks, it's really distracting to me. All these different colors sort of flickering on screen, really strange. The BMX riding, this is you cruising downhill, trying to perform as many tricks as possible off the ramps that show up. You pull back on the joystick to pull a wheelie, which will let you sort of go over certain obstacles without slowing down. And if you press the button and pull back as you go over a ramp, you can perform backflips. So you jump, you backflip, and try to get in as many rotations as possible. Basically, it's you performing jumps and crashing in tons of different ways that would kill a normal human. Here, these jumps are just crazy. Tons of spins, it's chaotic, and all you're doing is praying that you can land and score some points. It is a very archaic-looking minigame compared to the other platforms. It's practically monochrome here, and you are tiny on screen. Really, you're this tiny little odd-looking black icon, and you're zipping down a screen and flipping all around. The halfpipe is pretty weak as well, although I have to say I did manage to start scoring points on this version quicker compared to some of the other systems I've played. Now, I'm only doing simple turns on this ramp, but I was scoring points pretty quick with this one, so that's something. There aren't a lot of moves available for this particular game, but that's the same for all the other versions of the game. You can basically turn around on the ramp, you can turn around in the air, or maybe do a handplant. There's just not a lot of variety here. And this was one of the earlier skateboarding games. This was years before the Tony Hawk series came out, so there's just absolutely no comparison there. This one is just boring with little variation in colors. I'm sure it's a feat for the Atari 2600 to have this, but still, not that great of a game. I think the most shocking game in this collection on this cart, I have to say, is Footbag. I was not expecting this. It's actually good. I would go as far as to say it's really good. Certainly much better than I expected it was going to be, and it's actually better than the other platform versions I've played. It's actually fun. The goal is to kick the sack in the air, which is, on the 2600, it's really just a square. And you need to keep kicking it in the air, and that's how you get points. While it's in the air, you can spin around and kick it some more, and that's you basically doing tricks along the way. It plays really smooth, and it's kind of intuitive. Or at least it is for the basics. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I've definitely had a few runs. You can kick the sack in the air, you can spin around, you can pop the ball back up with your head, you can kick it up from behind, and when you get on a sort of roll with this, it's kind of fun. I was surprised that it felt so smooth. Also, it appears that the character you play on screen has either a reverse mohawk or is bald, with spiky hair around the edges of his head. I don't know why it looks that way to me, but I can't unsee it. Still, this is the best part of the whole cart for sure. There's also some music on the opening screen, just like the other versions of the game, and it's nice to hear. Although it doesn't translate to the games on the system, it would have been nice to have that music available elsewhere. Well, that's all I have for California games for the Atari 2600. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on another video.